As you know, for months, I talked about our new greatest Prime Minister of all time, Anthony Albanese, as the Aussie Joe Biden. He even, of course, hid in his version of a basement with COVID during the election campaign. I called him Aussie Joe Biden, however, because he was the reasonable face of what is going to be a far-left government. As you know, with the stroke of a pen, they can change the world and change it for the worse. With the influence of the Teals downstairs and the Greens plus the Tiffany Teals in the Senate, nothing can be done without the hard left in Australia. But as you know, life is getting tougher since the election of the Albanese government. Costs go up, cost for business goes up, inflation goes up, and yet again, next week we're going to get another interest rate rise. 25 or 50, who knows? If it's 50, that will be again the equal largest interest rate rise in Australia in more than 22 years. Now, what feeds into that is inflation, and I got some bad news. Lots of news around today about how things are costing more. Now, as you know, the Labor Party, as I said, spent plenty of time talking about cost of living during the election. Remember this?
Cost of living crisis, cost of living pressures, the cost of living, cost of living, cost of living, the cost of living, full cost of living, cost of living, cost of living, cost of...
Well, let's go through the list of what is adding to the cost of living, something that suddenly they don't seem to talk about anymore. Remember, everything that was personal before the election is now cyclical. Well, guess what? Have a look at this. Aged care is about to go up. Why? Because the Albanese government wants to pay people who work in aged care more money. However, they are saying that they will not tip in for the cost, so guess what? Almost half of all aged care providers in Australia are going to increase the fees for people who are in aged care. Meantime, the AGL decision to slug people $300 in New South Wales for power and about $100 extra when it comes to gas, that moves to Queensland as well today. Meantime, the people who run our electricity market have told us that because we've blown up coal-fired power stations with glee over many a year, that we need to spend the best part of $12 billion right now on not just more energy creation, but more for the grid to be able to put up with all of that energy creation, which means, of course, you pay more. If you are one of those poor, unfortunate people forgotten by this government, it's small business, you will pay more. When those costs go up, inflation goes up, interest rates go up, and everybody pays. Meantime, the Commonwealth Bank have announced today that their fixed rates are going up by 1.4%. Now, obviously, that is a bet that interest rates are going to be going up by a similar margin over the next, say, 12 months or so. But for those who are trying to desperately work out how to get in front of that curve, you might want to jump and get into front of that as fast as you can. Also, if you're, again, a person in small family business, somebody who's a tradie, anyone with an ABN, your costs are going up as well. Reports today that small business in particular and sole traders, the people who got so smashed by the pandemic, your costs are going up. The difficulty of getting things out of places like China, where, of course, they shut down ports like Shanghai with more than 3,000 boats waiting at sea for months to get things going, means the supply chain, plus the cost of power, the increase in wages, all of that adds to your costs. Cost for you, inflation, higher interest rates. But there is a brand new scapegoat, and it is the full conversion of Anthony Albanese to Aussie Joe Biden. He now says that all of this inflation, all of these extra costs are Vladimir Putin's fault. One of the worst bits of political spin that has come particularly out of the United States is Putin's price hike.